So I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the Big Draw. We are an arts education and visual literacy charity, and we were founded in 2000. And we believe that everyone can draw. We believe that drawing is an immensely important thing that should be, in all walks of life as a tool for well-being and learning and cultural engagement, and across all sectors. So we do a lot within education, but we also, the Big Draw Festival reaches a number of different organizations. And on the next slide, I've just got a little bit about the Big Draw Festival itself. So it is a worldwide celebration of drawing. It's made up of events run by organizations, big and small, across all different sectors, and it takes place every October with events, again, of all different shapes and sizes that celebrate creativity. And then finally, the last thing from me. So for anyone who is interested in signing up and hasn't signed up yet, to do so, you just head on over to our website, click on the Join Us page, and there are a number of different subscription categories. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Hazel.
Hi, thank you. So my name's Hazel. I'm Senior Visitor Experience Officer at Bath Assembly Rooms, which is a National Trust place. The Assembly Rooms has been owned by the Trust since the 1930s, but it's been leased to the local council since then. So the lease ended in 2023. And we've been really, really fortunate as a visitor experience team to have been able to spend the last 2 years getting to know the building, testing out events and programming, trying out our ideas ahead of starting a major renovation project, which started at the beginning of this year. So I like to describe the Assembly Rooms as a Georgian nightclub. It's a party venue. It's a place that was designed as a series of big empty rooms where people came to dance, drink, gamble, meet people. And because of that, and because of the building's more recent history through the Second World War, we don't have a lot of stuff. We've got 10 stunning Georgian chandeliers, a couple of beautiful replica benches, and this piece, this artwork here. That's the extent of the collection that we've got in the building. So this piece is the Long Minuet as Danced at Bath by Henry William Bunbury, which is an excellent name. It's a really fun caricature, and it depicts couples that are all dressed up in their finery dancing at the Assembly Rooms. It's quite a small piece, and there's quite a lot of detail. And it's quite easy to miss on your way into the building. You've got to get up really close to it to see all of those details. And when you do get up to it, it's one of those pieces that really rewards you. There are some people in there who are more pleased with their dance partners than others, red-faced from dancing, or maybe being slightly too refreshed. But it's a really fun piece, and we really wanted to do something with it, do some programming around it, and it felt like a really good link with the Big Draw, it being an illustration and a print of an illustration. So we thought October half term, perfect, and it'd be a really good fit. And then the idea for what we did as part of the Big Draw was really simple. This piece is called the Long Minuet. Let's see if we can make the longest minuet. And really, it didn't get much more complicated than that in terms of what our idea was. So the setup for the activity was really quite straightforward. We wanted to use the ballroom for this event. It's our largest space. It's really easily accessible from the main entrance, and it's also the space where the minuet would have been danced. We put tables down the middle of the ballroom to create one long communal table in the space, rolled out a big roll of paper, and then dotted around instructions, pens, pencils, all of your colouring and drawing utensils. We included some information boards as well that invited visitors to add to the history of the rooms and put their own modern twist into the minuet by drawing themselves, family, friends, or even fun characters. We also included some information about the rooms, some information about the print, and some of the historic context about what the dance is as well. We ran the event for 8 days over October half term. And we were really fortunate to be able to open this room completely for free while we were running income generating activities in other spaces in the building. The activity was completely self-led by visitors. We always had at least one person, but sometimes up to 4 people in the room, stewarding, answering questions, generally being encouraging of people getting involved. And over that run, we had just over 1,000 people come through, which for us at the time, quite a lot of people, which was really good. And we had a real mix of visitors in that time. We had families who were looking for something to do, as you'd expect at that time of year, but also lots of people who just wanted to pop in for a look at the room and the chandeliers. We had really great feedback from everyone across the board as well. Families loved that it was free, and for adult groups, it was an unexpected bit of fun on their sightseeing day out around Bath. At the end of the run, we had 66 meters of paper that had been drawn on, which is roughly 132 meters of minuet. So you can see that laid out on the ballroom floor, just there in that image. Hopefully, it's the longest minuet. We've not got Guinness involved yet. So there were some things that we learned along the way, and a couple of changes that we made from our original idea. As I say, on the whole, feedback was really, really positive and had a broad appeal in terms of ages. And it was really great to see how many adults without children got involved and got drawing. People sometimes, as I say, the pieces are very small and it's in the entranceway. People did sometimes miss it on their way in. So we put out some on the tables, some little pictures so people could remind themselves what it was that they were looking at and what the piece that they were responding to. Visitors specifically commented that they liked that they could just sit down and doodle, that there was no rush, that they didn't need to stay for a set amount of time, or they could stay for as long as they wanted to. And we also got great feedback that there were strong links to the room and to the collection item. It made learning about the history fun and engaging. People really did engage with the information that we put out and asked our stewards quite lots of really great questions. We found that there were some people who were less confident drawing from scratch. So what we did is we added in some colouring sheets that we had already made of the characters that were in the long minuet, and people coloured them in and then stuck them on. You can see a couple of examples of that on this picture here. And we also found that we had more young families than we were expecting. So we put out some toys, books for under fives to have a little play with, while older siblings got involved with the drawings, and parents as well. And yeah, I'm just going to finish with a couple of my favourite drawings here. As I say, on the whole, really, really successful piece of programming, and it's definitely something that we'd like to try and replicate. Probably not going to be able to do it on such a big scale when we reopen, but yeah, it went really well. And the communal aspect of it was also really pleasing. It was really great to see people coming into the room to have a look at the space, but also spending time looking through other people's drawings, getting inspiration, picking out their favourites, and just generally getting inspired to have a go themselves, particularly when it wasn't necessarily their intention when they came into the building to be making a drawing. So I'm just going to finish there, and very happy to stay at the end and answer any questions that anyone's got.
Thank you, Hazel. That was amazing. I will hand over to Leyla at the Courtauld.
Thank you very much. So, yes, I have come here from the Courtauld and I head up the research forum team there. And I'll get onto what that means, as it's very confusing. Every time I say it, I confuse myself. But firstly, I wanted to introduce what the Courtauld is, as it's a slightly complex institution, almost of three sections. So the first part, as we've got on the screen, is our gallery, the Courtauld Gallery. But actually, the institution was founded by the Courtauld, Samuel Courtauld in particular, under this idea of art for all. And a lot of these works seen on screen were actually housed in the seminar rooms for students to learn art historical histories, as well as any kind of like curation and conservation as well. And as we have grown, the Courtauld has inherited more collections and we've expanded. So we're often known as being a collection of collections. So as I mentioned, the Courtauld is also a higher education institute, often seen as a university. And this side of things really allows us to bring research rigor into everything that we do. Now, because this is the first slide, just to say that the Courtauld Gallery is currently held in the magnificent Somerset House in London, and it's particularly known for its Impressionist and post-Impressionist masterpieces and our temporary exhibitions. If anyone was around a few months ago, you might have been trying to get a ticket to Monet in London, which absolutely no one could get into, including us staff. And because of the fact that we're a research-led institution and an independent college of University of London, we have a really prestigious programme of art history, curation and conservation. But actually the conservation labs have returned to Somerset House while the university remains at our King's Cross temporary campus while we renovate the other half of Somerset House. And you can kind of see some of the works that we have, but our collection is paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures, and decorative arts, ranging from the medieval period to the present day. So we do have a really vast collection. I think people tend to think that we're just impressionist works, but that's not the case. And as well, one of the things that is really important and why we've always wanted to take part in the Big Draw is that we have a vast collection of works on paper. So around 7,000 drawings and watercolours and 26,000 prints ranging again from the Renaissance to the present day. And this includes really outstanding works by artists including Dürer, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Turner, and Cézanne. And it really provides a broad account of all major European styles and schools. And this allows people, when we were allowed to put them on display in the gallery, to see a real range of works on paper. So yeah, I wanted to show this as well, which is really why my role was involved in our Big Draw events to start with. So because it's a gallery and a higher education institute, it's no surprise that research underpins everything that we do. And we're approaching our centenary in 2032, and we're really renewing this commitment to being a world-leading research centre that shapes the collective understanding of the visual arts, past, present, and future. And within that, we want to champion this type of importance of the Society of Cultural Knowledge. So we think that creativity plays a really important role of that. And actually, a lot of our researchers at the Courtauld are artists or practitioners themselves, and the practical side of making and thinking it through really deepens their academic practice as well. So I mentioned at the start, I was in charge of the research forum, and as part of being part of the research forum when I first started here 6 years ago, I was in charge of overseeing this kind of connection between the gallery and the institute, opening up the access to the collection with a research angle, which has been a really fun, rewarding job. And it seemed like a natural thing that it was my role, because it was committed to furthering art history and artistic practices, that I would lead on the Big Draw in 2019. And we've never really looked back, to be honest. I just wanted to show this as well, which is some of our academics working on creating works themselves. This is our graphic arts group, which is one of our research clusters, and they meet up maybe every 3 months and actually work through the processes and understand our collection a bit more. And one of the things that we've done with this graphic art groups and our curator of works on paper and also the conservators of works on paper is to really think about the ways in which the Courtauld is uniquely placed to think about a Big Draw event, which is something that I wanted to share with you all, is that what makes you different, and that actually allows you to make a really unique, special event for everyone. And we have done, because we've moved sites, because we had a closed gallery that was being renovated, and because of COVID, we've kind of done every sort of event you could possibly do as part of the Big Draw programme since 2019. And that's actually been to our benefit, because we've been challenged to think about what we can do and the best way to do it. And that's always been really fun in its own way. So I wanted to just focus on one aspect of our programming in our Big Draws. And this has always been to open up our prints and drawings study room. And this is with the curators of the prints of drawing, our prints and drawings assistants, who tend to be Courtauld students, and also our conservators of works on paper. So these works, as I say, there's 26,000 prints and then the 7,000 drawings and watercolours, tend to not be on display because they're slightly more fragile, delicate works. And as part of the Big Draw, we've been able to showcase these and ones that particularly relate to the theme. And it's brought in really different people to see works that actually haven't ever hung on the gallery walls, to be honest, as well, because there's so many and we don't have enough wall space. And that's allowed us to challenge this idea that the Courtauld is firstly a hidden gem, like slightly old-fashioned, static, it's kind of unchanging, where everything's just hung on the wall, uncontextualized, and has allowed people to come in, see the works, shine the torches on them, and come away feeling really inspired that they can create the works themselves. And because we have this backbone of experts, they're really able to share their passion with people, and they don't often come out and do these things. So it's really special for everyone that's involved. And we really think that this back of house open access type thing is really great within the space that we've inherited. Somerset House, if anyone's familiar with it, is a very tricky space. It is on, I think, I want to say it's 64 levels when you add it across the whole site. So it just makes it quite complicated to run any kind of activity. And just honing into this one space and showcasing it and knowing that we have the expertise to make a really exciting event is really wonderful. And also having a range of works that kind of appeal to all the different groups that we think will come through the door, particularly these younger audiences, anything that's bright and colourful, we found they really engage with, but also our traditional audience who tend to be real deep divers into our historical learnings. They come along because they've never had access to these works themselves as well. This is our last big draw that we held, which our wonderful learning team created a pack thinking of movement with our Degas, and we had a lot of families having the time of their lives running around the gallery, while a lot of the adults had the best time behind the scenes looking at the drawings in the Princeton Drawing Study Room. So we have really loved every minute of working with the Big Draw and have always had fantastic feedback. Uh, Families have always said it's a nice break because they know that their kids are going to be entertained while they can look at the artworks on the walls. They know it's going to be relatively cheap because children get free access to the gallery as well. And because the Big Draw team is so kind and dedicated and so efficient as well, it's really meant that we're able to have the support to do that. And I will wrap it up there, but I've tried to show very quickly that the Courtauld is super complex because we're working across all these sites with a really hard historic building. Our collections are so vast and often fragile, and being in London makes it quite difficult in terms of people's financial and physical barriers to access. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that come up in a bit. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That was amazing. Two amazing ways to respond to your collections through the big draw, both from a research point of view and in practice. So we've just put together some FAQs that we often get from organizations. The first one is it too late to join the 2025 festival? I'll hand this one over to our director, Matilda.
Yeah, thank you, Vassi. So this is one of the most common questions that we get asked. And I suppose in addition to this is just kind of how much time should we be giving ourselves to plan, and when should we be looking at doing this? I mean, the answer is really it's kind of how long is a piece of string. We know a lot of organizers, especially much larger scale organizations who where their programming is kind of in place far in advance. They do start planning towards the beginning of the year, but we also know a lot of organizers who are planning kind of more towards September. I guess it's also worth mentioning, and kind of as you could see actually from both Hazel and Leyla, the big draw can very much be integrated into the existing programs that you have, or it doesn't have to necessarily be something huge and different and new to what you already do. You might just want to encourage people to look at the existing works that you have on display in a new way. So I mean, yeah, happy to hand over to Leyla and Hazel if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you could honestly do something really exciting and really low key for you as an organizer that's going to have a vast impact really quickly. So we've done different things where we've had to pivot online and we've just made stuff up with the resources we have in-house. Then we've done stuff about our exhibition that we just thought we'll just do that, or we've just picked one work. So I think you can scale it up and down very easily and just think about things slightly differently than you normally would. So I think we would usually do 3 month planning time, but that's because we're a slightly larger institution. But I think in other places I've worked, we would do things a little bit closer to the time.
I've just been frantically clicking through my folders to work out when did we sign up for the big draw when we did it. I can tell that I created the folder with the contents in May of the year, and we had our confirmation that we'd signed up at the end of September. So really not a huge amount of time between us going, yes, we're definitely doing this, and us being open to the public with it. And yeah, I think that sort of demonstrates us having quite a simple idea, and sort of keeping it very simple and doing other things around it, and that being successful. So if you haven't signed up yet, I don't think it's too late by any stretch.
Great. And just to add to that, so from the moment you sign up to when you actually design your program and list it, it doesn't have to happen back to back. So you can sign up and, use the summer to plan your events. Which brings us to the next question. We've signed up, so what are the next steps? So I just put together a couple of bullet points, but they're all pretty straightforward. Maybe it's brainstorming with your team internally what your event idea is going to be, and keeping it simple, I think, is a very good tip. Who your audience is, like what sort of target group would you like to reach? Because this could be an opportunity to work sort of with an intergenerational sort of group, or a very specific learning audience that you'd like to reach. How is it going to be facilitated? So we've seen examples of how they could be drop-in, sort of self-led activity, versus maybe you might want to hire a specialist to come in and deliver a workshop. So there's sort of different ways to go about that. Location. So where is it going to take place? It could be online, it could be in person. If yes, do you want to activate specific rooms in your spaces? Keeping weather in mind, if you wanted to work sort of in interstitial spaces that aren't sort of typically, accessed for exhibitions, etc. Materials, again, like, resourcing can be quite simple and straightforward. The last time I checked, I think a roll of lining paper at B&Q is £6, so it's pretty affordable. And that's the great thing about drawing. And that brings me to the next point, object handling, which is a really wonderful sort of opportunity to bring things out of your collection that, people wouldn't necessarily have time to observe or make drawings of. And finally, marketing. And I think Matilda will be able to sort of add to this, how the big draw get involved in helping promote your event as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, once you've signed up, we very much urge you, first of all, just to kind of get in touch with the Big Draw team. We'd love to, have a call and talk through what you have planned, and we can kind of if we've got any particular bits of advice, we'd love to, love to add to that. But also, yeah, certainly from a marketing perspective, we have got a marketing toolkit that you'll have access to as a Big Draw organizer. And then you can also, yeah, tag us on social media, please do. And send us any images that you have or videos. We'd be very happy to try and fit things into, the social media content calendar and on our newsletter. So yeah, all those kind of things. That's another benefit of taking part in the Big Draw. You are kind of joining into a bit of a partnership with the Big Draw team, and we're very happy to share your events. And you do also have the ability to share your events onto the Big Draw website. So there's no limit to the number of event listings that you can share on the Big Draw website. So while the festival itself is in October, you can share other events outside of that time if you'd like to, also promote other aspects of your event programming. So yeah.
Can we incorporate Big Draw events into existing programming?
Yeah, I suppose we've kind of already covered it, really.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, I guess the answer is yes. Yes, it can. We do often have people saying, well, we've already kind of got our events program sorted, oh, that's a shame. But actually, really, there's nothing stopping you incorporating the Big Draw into that. And again, like I said as well, once you've signed up, you can also share any other existing programs that you have with the big draw audience as well. So yeah, really there's no limit in that sense.
So I've got some examples here of museum takeovers where, they've been really large scale in the courtyard, lots of activity around the permanent collection. But equally, here we have an example of the MAC in Birmingham, where families were invited to draw within the exhibition space. So they were sort of directly looking at what was on view and drawing on the floor. And it was a great way to activate the space. And of course, over to the right, we've got some examples of people drawing from collections. We've got an image from the Grant Museum of Zoology, which is a wunderkammer if you've never been. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities there. And sort of we also have Hauser and Wirth as a partner this year, and they've taken part, for a couple of years now. And this was in LA, where they designed a kinetic drawing experience for visitors who could drive these remote control cars to make marks in this little setup that they had in the courtyard, which we thought was incredible. We're on a budget. How can we take part, or are there ways we can take part that it's not going to impact on our sort of overall budget?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think what I would say to that is of course there is a cost to signing up to the Big Draw Festival, and unfortunately the subscription fees are kind of just what we rely on as a charity to keep the Big Draw Festival going, but we do try to keep them as low as possible to make it as accessible as possible. And we haven't increased those fees in 9 years. But once you have signed up to the festival, it really is possible to keep those events, as affordable as you need to. Self-led activities are very much just as effective. You can just offer out drawing materials to visitors in your gallery or museum, and they might then wander off and do their own drawing, and it doesn't necessarily need to be facilitated, or there doesn't need to be any additional costs there. This here is a drawing guide that we had commissioned this year by an artist called Lucia Vinti, which is available to Big Draw organisers to download and print and use in their spaces. And it's a very fun guide to hand out to visitors to encourage them to kind of draw together, again inspired by this year's theme, and use that drawing as a means of kind of responding to a collection. But yeah, it is kind of, you can kind of make these events as kind of on a shoestring, or you can do quite a big blowout event. It does, it is possible to do it on multiple budgets.
Yeah, there's innovative ways to sort of to work with very simple materials. That was a sensory box at the Walt Disney Family Museum, where people were sort of exploring objects through touch and then drawing it. Kids activating spaces with chalk, which is inexpensive. I don't know, Hazel, what did the sort of overall spend on your event come? I mean, if you're able to reveal or share ballpark.
Yeah, very happy to share that. So it was about £360 that we spent on. The vast majority of that cost was getting the interpretation printed, because we were sort of camping in the building. We didn't have any existing interpretation about the rooms, about the artwork, so we had to create that, so that we had that available specifically for this event. As you say, rolls of paper from B&Q, £6. And then it was all the pencils and felt tips that we already had from other family activities that we had. So it was all the stuff that we were comfortable with. We know that we can wash this off the floors if anyone gets a bit overexcited. All of those equipment already. So yeah, very, very little in terms of what we spent on materials.
It's probably also, I'll just briefly mention that quite a few organisers that we've worked with in the past have been able to use their partnership with the Big Draw as a means of kind of supporting grant application funds and things like that. So there is also the potential, for kind of getting funding and things like that for your events. And yeah, the Big Draw is kind of there to support you with that as well.
So our next question is, what do we do with the drawings? And maybe sort of thinking beyond just the drawings themselves, like what is the legacy of these events within your organizations? I've got some images here just sort of to address the material output. This is the Big Draw at Sun Pier House in Chatham in Kent, and they just had these washing up lines, and everyone was invited to sort of hang up their drawings. So there's no sort of permanent installed onto the wall. It's very accessible, which we thought was lovely. We've got an image from Goma in Glasgow where they hung all the artwork in their sort of central corridor atrium to make this beautiful installation. And over to the right at the Natural History Museum, the collective sort of drawings were hung up like banners, which were really incredible to see. And yeah, so just a couple of ideas of display. In terms of legacy, I think I'm going to ask our speakers to talk about what the outcome of these big draw events have been for you.
So all of the activity that we were doing over those 2 years was all about audience testing, finding out who was just passing by, who our audiences were and who wanted to engage and how they wanted to engage with the building and the collection. So in terms of learning, that is a really big legacy of this event, of our involvement with the Big Draw. And we are now fairly confident that we've got a format that works, that we can use again for future family activities or ways that we might be engaging with community groups or whoever will be coming into the building in the future. We've got something in our pocket that we know works really well. We've still got the rolls of paper downstairs in our break room, working out what to do with them. We can't get rid of them, but we've not got a proper plan for them yet. But we'd really love to be able to include them in. It's great to have them as a sort of, you're always looking for images to add into reports or applications for things. So having those available, like we'll scan these in and have them available. So we'll find something to do with them.
Thank you. That's very similar to us in terms of what we've done with all the images that we had. I think I spent a day trying to scan them all, but we had the giant rolls of paper, so we ended up just taking pictures of everything. And we also put them into reports that we do about our general output. We've found in learning in general that we've been able to share our collection with a much bigger audience than we would if we had just been using our own networks. So that's been an amazing thing for us to do because we're already quite well known, but only within people that already know about art history. So this has been a really lovely way to garner the different audiences that different people have that are taking part in the big draw. And we also have really, which I think is probably a little bit of an unusual one, but we've been able to create like an institutional community around the big draw and actually bringing different teams together to work on a singular project has been a really nice thing to do, particularly when we're working across different sites with hybrid working. It has been a really amazing thing to do one event that has quite a low cost for us because we open during the day anyway, so we do it when we're already open. But you see the security team getting involved. You can see the porters coming in after they've had their morning shift and they come and get involved, which has been really, that's just such a lovely thing to be able to provide something for the public, but also for the staff.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, thank you both so much for joining us. It's so inspiring hearing from Big Draw Festival organisers. It's just so lovely.